Thank you all very much for being here. I want to thank Campaign for America's Future and all of the other organizations that have made this event possible. Let me begin by stating that I find it rather appalling that a Wall Street billionaire, Pete Peterson, a man who has more money than he could spend in 100 lifetimes, is hosting a conference today that called for massive cuts in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and many other programs that millions of middle-income families desperately depend upon. Billionaires like Mr. Peterson and others should not be using their wealth and their power to beat up on people in this country who are trying to survive. I find that morally grotesque.
Mr. President.
Let's also be very clear. The United States has today the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth, and the gap between the very rich and everybody else is growing wider and wider. In America today, the wealthiest 400 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million Americans. The top 1% alone, Mr. Peterson and his friends, own over 40% of the wealth in this country. In contrast, if you can believe it, the bottom 60% of Americans, the people who will be hurt terribly by the proposals coming out of this conference, they own 1% of the wealth of America. So if we want to move to a deficit reduction, maybe the time is now to ask Mr. Peterson and his billionaire friends to start paying their fair share of taxes rather than devastating middle income and working families. And the situation is getting worse in terms of income and wealth disparity. All of you should know that in the last study that we have seen in 2010, and I want you all to hear this, 93% of all new income between 2000 and 2010 and 2009 went to the top 1%. And 7% of all new income was shared by everybody else. And these people here have the gall to tell low-income seniors and working-class families that they have got to take cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and then they go around and tell us that the rich need more tax breaks. That is absurd. That is morally indefensible. Now let us also not forget that the federal deficit, which I am concerned about, which you are concerned about, was caused by two wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, which George Bush forgot to pay for. The federal deficit was caused by tax breaks for billionaires like Mr. Peterson and people all over this country who never needed those tax breaks. And one of the major reasons that we're in a deficit today is because of the Wall Street caused recession, which resulted in business decline and unemployment all over America, meaning less revenue coming into federal coffers, which today are at the lowest point, less than 15% of GDP that we have seen in over 50 years. Point being, yeah, we have got to deal with the deficit, but don't do it on the backs of the weak and the vulnerable.
Woo!
Now let me just say a word about Social Security. And let me be very loud and clear on this. Despite what you'll hear on television tonight, despite what you'll be hearing from people at this conference today, despite what virtually every Republican is saying and despite what some Democrats are saying. Social Security is not going broke. Now, if you want to know the truth, you don't have to trust me. Just go to the recent report by the Social Security trustees. And this is what you'll find. Social Security has a $2.7 trillion surplus. Social Security can pay out 100% of all promised benefits for the next 21 years, at which time it will pay out 75% of all benefits if Congress does nothing. Should we fix Social Security and make it solvent for the next 75 years? Yes, we should. And the way to do that is very simple. Right now, billionaires like Mr. Peterson pay into the Social Security Trust Fund the same amount of money as somebody making $110,000 a year. And if we lift that cap starting at $250,000, which by the way is the proposal that Barack Obama brought forth when he was running for president, if you just do that, ask Mr. Peterson and his friends to start contributing more to Social Security, Social Security will be solvent for the next 75 years. So let me conclude by simply saying this. All over this country, you saw this in France, you saw it in Germany, you saw it in Greece, and you're seeing it in America. What the people are saying is, yeah, if we need austerity, let it not be austerity on the backs of the most vulnerable people in our country. Let us not have austerity on the backs of the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor. Let's have some austerity for Mr. Peterson and the other billionaires. And if we ask the wealthy and large corporations to start paying their fair share of taxes, if we take a hard look at military spending, which in this country now is more than the rest of the world combined, we can deal with our deficit crisis, but do it in a way that is fair for ordinary Americans.